YOLO Julius, this is your girl Raven Chapman, the Haymon. Just want to give you a big shout out here from the UK. Ring IQ, you're the man. Thanks so much for your support.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. A story that comes to us by way of international boxing news via their sources. There is a verbal agreement in place for Amanda Serrano, the featherweight division's unified champion, to defend her featherweight world titles against Raven Chapman in late 2023 or early 2024. The question here is, could Raven Chapman be ready for a pound-for-pound fighter, an elite fighter like Amanda Serrano by that time? Is a year's time really enough? A little over a year's time.
You don't think that's too soon for this?
I love Raven Chapman, and I'm not going to apologize for that.
I won't.
I don't want to see her thrust into a situation that she's not ready for. Not ready for as a professional. So the question is, could she be ready by that time? By either late 2023 or early 2024 for someone like Amanda Serrano? Well, that really is contingent upon how Raven looks and what her schedule looks like in the next 12 months or so.
Raven Chapman debuted as a professional last year. She fought 2 times last year. She's already fought 2 times this year.
With some doing, there's still enough time to get Raven another fight in, an easy one, something a little easier than the fight she just had with former champion Jorgelina Guanini, just to get Raven some more rounds in the bank and some more professional experience, because if she is to be ready for someone like Amanda by late 2023 or early 2024, she's going to need to hit the ground running.
So there is that to consider. Raven's overall readiness for a fight with a pound-for-pound elite fighter, what could be an undisputed champion.
There's also that angle of the story. You must understand that Amanda Serrano is very close to achieving her goal of becoming the featherweight division's undisputed champion. She's only one fight away, the Erica Cruz fight. She only needs to add the WBA title to her collection. And Amanda Serrano, if I do say so myself, she will be the betting favorite against Erica Cruz.
That's saying that there's really only one more fight left for Amanda worth having in this division. Beyond that, she might move upstairs.
She might. It all depends on how long the people at Most Valuable Promotions, it all depends on how long it takes them to negotiate a deal with Erica Cruz. What could be the undisputed featherweight title fight. Beyond that,
there won't be much reason for Amanda to stick around at 126 pounds.
You're talking about late 2023 to early 2024. Amanda Serrano may have already had the Erica Cruz fight by then, and she may have so left the division, may have decided to move up in weight and pick up a title at super featherweight. I don't know. Maybe she targets the winner of Mayer versus Baumgartner, depending on who the winner is and whether or not they're still there at 130 pounds, just north of 126.
Amanda Serrano is one of the best dressed fighters anywhere at or around these weights.
What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Absolutely nothing.
The point is that whether or not Raven Chapman will be ready for Amanda by 2023 or early 2024 may not even come into it, because by that time, Amanda Serrano may have moved on.
And the next wave, the next generation of featherweights is already here. Raven Chapman among them.
She's not the only unbeaten up-and-comer that plans on challenging for an alphabet title next year. Unbeaten up-and-comer of Australia, amateur standout Sky Nicholson. She plans on fighting for an alphabet title in the near future. You must also mind
Karis Artingstall.
Germany's own unbeaten up-and-comers Sophie Leash and Sarah Liegmund.
The next wave, the next generation of featherweights is already here.
Amanda Serrano, in her career, is long past the point where she needs to be taking on unbeaten up-and-comers. She's reached a point to where it's big fights and big nights.
To be honest with you, I'd sooner expect Amanda to move up to super featherweight, maybe go on another title run there, maybe takes on the winner of Mayer versus Baumgartner.
I don't know. There's just no guarantees that by late 2023 to early 2024, Amanda will still be there, when by that time, she may have already achieved her goal of becoming this division's undisputed champion. Who knows what she might decide to get into after that? Maybe she returns to the octagon, decides to do mixed martial arts, or I don't know, some other kind of project. The bottom line is, while this is a very intriguing story, and it leaves a lot to the imagination, there's no guarantees that in a year's time, a little over a year's time, we see Raven Chapman versus Amanda Serrano. So I wouldn't spend too much time on this.
Terrence Crawford agreed to take the short end of the split and work off of no guarantee, and he wants to be able to just, have some transparency there related to it, since he's going to be working off of the net revenue. And so far, they have been unable to clear this up. It feels like Al Haymon is holding up the deal right now. He advises Spence. Spence wants it. Crawford wants it. And for Crawford to agree to work off of just a purse split shows you how badly he wants this, in my opinion.
Hold on a second. You mean to tell me, because anyone who follows the way, Hollywood or anything, there's no such thing as the net. It's all the growth. I mean, certainly if you don't have oversight of the books, right, approving expenses, or certainly at least knowing where all the money's going, no one would ever agree to a net. The fact that Crawford's, you work off the gross. But if you're working off the net, then certainly if what you're reporting is accurate, then Crawford would be out of his mind not to insist on that. And you're telling me that that's what's holding it up, that Al Haymon, who's advising Errol Spence, is not giving Terrence Crawford oversight over expenses or giving him transparency to the books, of the books. He's not letting him take a look at the books. And that's why Crawford won't sign? Because that sounds to me, Mike, like a duck. That sounds like Al Haymon doesn't think that his guy is going to win and is ducking Terrence Crawford.
But when has that not been the situation, Max? When has that not been the case? For 4 years? For 4 fucking years, I told you that Al Haymon and his PBC, they never wanted this fight. Now, what this could be is Al Haymon attempting to pull a fast one on Terrence Crawford now that Bob Arum is not in the picture. That's what this could be. That's one way it could be. Yet another way
that you can look at it.
Another scenario is that this could be Al Haymon attempting to sabotage negotiations without taking the heat for it.
Because, like Max Kellerman said, he doesn't like his guy's chances. Errol Spence Jr. is still his guy, after all.
But any way you slice it, with Bob Arum no longer in the picture, he can't be
the fall guy,
the Haymonites' scapegoat. Not anymore. For the longest time, they told us that Crawford was on the wrong side of the street and that dealing with Bob Arum would impede these negotiations, and yet Bob Arum's not here.
Experienced litigator under a black heart.
She said it best. So if I've got this right, the PBC wants Bud to get paid like he's a co-promoter, but not actually get to co-promote or even know anything about how they decide to promote it. This is the deal he's supposed to sign.
No money up front, no money down, no money guarantee.
You heard what I said. There's no guarantee for Bud. There's no money up front, and he's getting the short end of the stick.
Errol's getting the lion's share of the split.
The pay-per-view's upside, as it were, if there even is an upside for them to have to split.
And he's intended to sign a contract like this?
Like I said, maybe Al Haymon thought that he could pull a fast one on Terrence because Bob Arum's not in the picture anymore, or maybe this is just his own way of sabotaging the fight.
Because he never wanted this for Errol to begin with. Don't forget
what the PBC's VP of Communications said earlier this year.
What is hindering this fight from happening, in your opinion?
Economics. And you don't really want to insult a guy like Terrence Crawford, who's a tremendous talent. And I'm not taking away anything from his talent, but he hasn't been built into a pay-per-view star. And I'm not saying that to throw shade at the guy, but you got to go on his track record. You got to go and look at what he's done, in the pay-per-view fights that he's been at, been involved in. And, that it's not my job to tell anybody how to make him a pay-per-view star. We have enough work on our hands dealing with, trying to make our own guys into pay-per-view stars, but he just hasn't been built. And trust me, if there is money in him fighting Errol Spence where he could get what he wants and Errol could get what he wants, that fight would get made. But you don't want to insult the guy. Nobody wants to insult this guy and make him an offer that's insulting. Nobody wants to do that. Like I said, he's a proud champion, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that to him. But from a business standpoint, it's a fight that, might excite the fans and all these people that are out there yelling about pay-per-view and too much they're not buying it anyway. They're not going to plop down any money to make it, successful. They're going to steal the fight, but, they're not going to support it on pay-per-view, and the numbers, won't be enough to give him what he needs. or what, well, not necessarily what he needs, but what he wants.
That's the PBC's VP of Communications talking. And these are not old sound bites. Those sound bites are from earlier this year. So that's saying that at the start of 2022, the PBC didn't believe in this fight.
They didn't believe in it. I don't think they ever wanted it.
So is anyone surprised that even though Bob Arum's out of the picture, and even though Terrence Crawford is willing to take no money down, no money up front, no guarantee, short end of the split,
Al Haymon still can't get it done. He still can't fucking deliver.
you had money to offer Canelo Alvarez, didn't you? You even had money to offer Golden Boy Promotions' Haymon Munguia. You guys made an offer to that guy.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't just the promise of a pay-per-view upside that you offered him. You likely offered him money up front.
But you ain't got no money for Terrence, huh?
I could go in a lot of directions with this, I really could. But I'm gonna keep it simple, straight to the point.
Terrence has made a lot of concessions to get this fight done. All he wants is transparency, and Al doesn't want to give it to him. He's hiding something, obviously. What that is, your guess is as good as mine. But after all this time, Terrence, he's in his mid-30s.
Errol's in his 30s too. He's not getting any younger.
These careers, and this fight, it's dying on the vine as time passes. Terrence hasn't fought since late last year. Sean Porter, he was at least guaranteed $6 million up front for that fight, but he's not guaranteed nothing in this one, and this one's supposed to be a bigger fight than that one was.
When have you ever heard of a cash cow? Any cash cow of any sort?
Cash cow of boxing, or maybe not boxing, maybe just the cash cow of a division. When have you ever heard of a cash cow not being able to guarantee their opponent a respectable purse? If you can't guarantee the man a respectable purse, you are no cash cow, sir.
Anthony Joshua guaranteed Charles Martin $7 million or over $7 million to get him in the ring for a shot at his belt. That's what a cash cow can do.
A real cash cow, more recently. Canelo Alvarez got Caleb Plant $10 million. Caleb Plant ain't a $10 million fighter, but he got $10 million fighting Canelo Alvarez, because that's what a cash cow, a real cash cow, can do.
Errol is a fraud.
And Al Haymon is a flim-flam artist.
Gaslighting the boxing community with tall tales of the land of milk and honey.
The PBC is anything but. And if this fight never materializes, at minimum, what this has brought to light, what this has exposed, is who the real obstruction was.
Who's really been holding up this fight all these years?
If you can't see it for what it is, it's because you don't want to. You want Al Haymon to be something more, something that he isn't.
I've been telling you for 4 years. He's the problem.
Now, Showtime executive Stefan Espinoza has attempted to get in front of this thing and do some damage control, saying negotiations are ongoing and we're still working hard to make the fight. Sorry I don't have more to offer, but publicly airing the negotiations would only make it more difficult to make a deal. Oh, and don't believe everything you read. But should we believe you, Stefan?
Huh?
Should we take you at your word?
Huh?
Whatever it is, since you're not actually providing clarification. If the stories aren't true and Al Haymon isn't the holdup, what is the holdup then?
It can't be sides of the street the way that Errol Spence Jr. said 4 years ago when Terrence isn't on the top-ranked side of the street anymore. He's a free agent.
So it's not sides of the street. It's not Bob Arum. It's not any of those things. Getting this fight over the line is solely your responsibility, you and your buddies at the PBC. Yet here we are, approaching October.
The damaging effects that Al Haymon has had on this sport.
Have you ever just taken a step back to think about what's happened to what are supposed to be glamour weights in the sport? Historically, they're glamour weights, the welterweight division. It's stagnant.
And it's because of you and your fucking fighters and your inability to get the job done.
And your unethical business practices. The conflict of interest associated with playing advisor to a fighter and brokering a deal with a network. Surely you can't have both their best interests in mind.
Somebody's gonna get burned. You see these fighters? They might fight once a year if they're lucky.
If they're lucky. And what fighters aren't fighting under your banner? Fighters like Haymon Stanionis, who's supposed to be represented by Richard Schaefer and Probellum, he's supposed to be getting a title shot by way of the WBA. He already stepped aside to allow your fighter, Errol Spence Jr., to unify with Yordenis Ugas. And what is he getting for it?
Well, he's not getting his title shot. He's getting left in limbo is what he's getting.
That's what he's getting. And the same applies to Jaron Boots Ennis, a young fighter who a lot of people are high on. A young fighter who a lot of people have a high opinion of, but a young fighter who has fought for a grand total of 4 minutes this whole year. He's waiting on a title shot too, just like Haymon Stanionis. But all the titles, they're tied up with your fighter and this situation.
These are the damaging effects that Al Haymon has had on the sport of boxing. Entire divisions, entire careers, dying on the vine.
It's almost poetic justice that the task to finally deliver this fight and get it over the line, it's almost poetic justice that that task is laid at the feet of none other than Al Haymon, Stefano Espinosa, and the PBC. It's poetic justice because you're the guys that spent 4 years disparaging Terrence Crawford and all of his career accolades, all of his career accomplishments. You're the guys that tried to convince the world that Errol Spence Jr. doesn't need him.
That fight Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter and Yordenis Ugas, that those fights were more important.
You're the guys that offered up substitute after substitute after substitute as this fight went cold and Terrence Crawford's profile suffered for it. You're the guys.
You fucked it all up.
You schmucks. You did it. So it's poetic justice. It's only right that now you're the ones that have to try and sell it. The onus is on you to deliver, and you can't seem to do it.
Did you hear what Tim Smith said? That Terrence Crawford hasn't been built into a pay-per-view attraction. Well, neither has Errol Spence Jr. if he can't give the guy a guarantee.
I mean, Mikey Garcia got a guarantee. Sean Porter got a guarantee. Danny, Ugas, they got guarantees. But Terrence, you ain't got no money for Terrence?
You say that Terrence Crawford, he hasn't been built into a pay-per-view attraction, but what kind of pay-per-view attraction is Errol if he can't get this guy a career-high purse? If he can't even get this guy a goddamn guarantee?
Listen, this fight don't mean to me now what it meant 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was excited about this fight. Here today, I'm just here to say, I told you so. I fucking told you so.
I told you it's all smoke and mirrors over there. I told you.
And you still have spin doctors and spin artists trying to spin this to where somehow it's not Al Haymon's fault. It's not on him. Then who's it on?
I keep telling you, they want him to be something more than what he actually is. All he is a flim-flam artist.
An Ivy League flim-flam artist, but better still, a flim-flam artist.
Likely makes the same empty promises to every young fighter he comes across. The same sales pitch. Name-dropping Floyd Mayweather.
In order to ensnare these young fighters so he can keep them under his thumb where he has full agamonical control over their careers, for better or worse.
Oh, it's usually worse. It's what I always told you.
Whether you like it or not.